Hello, young and sane fam. Welcome to another exciting episode on the Young and Sane podcast. Here is a place where we create safe space for young minds to have real conversations about things that impact our sanity, our mental health, and our identity, and all that pertains to our life as young people. And I'm Tamarflourish, your host for today. We're diving into a topic that affects so many of us young people, which is breaking free from family expectations. And family expectations do not have to be bad expectations, but there's just a weight, an unhealthy weight that they can put on you. But this has a flip side, right? It's not cast in stone. We're trying to talk about breaking free from unhealthy family expectations, right? I want you to have that perspective. But family expectations can actually be healthy expectations. A family expects you to succeed in any venture that you get into or to represent the family name correctly. So I don't think that those ones are bad. But especially in our African society, family expectations can actually put on a dark weight on you because they usually cross into the unhealthy side, right? And so that's what we're going to be focusing on today in this podcast episode. So if you've ever felt the weight of your family's dreams, traditions, or pressures shaping your life in ways that don't feel authentic to you, that's what I'm talking about as unhealthy family expectations, then this episode is for you. We're going to talk about how to navigate these expectations, how to honor yourself while still respecting your roots, and most importantly, how to reclaim your identity in all of this. Now, based on this, I want to talk about a story. Now, it's not a personal story, but it's a story from a movie I watched on Omoni Oboli's YouTube channel, which is Breaking the Rules. And in this story, a young girl, Ada, in her 30s, had this. Her father had no son, and so she was supposed to take up the legacy of her father, the corporation he built, and she was doing quite well, hardworking and all of that. But her father had a certain expectation on her to marry from a certain kind of family, the families that were known or families that had a name. And then there was this family, their family name was DK, her name was Adana DK. And then there was this other family that her dad expected her to be married to because they had, say, a social status in society that he needed, right, his daughter to be married into. And they were called Anoziv. And she was dating their son, but he exactly was not the kind of man that she needed. He was emotionally unavailable and just had a lot of stuffs, right? He was not hardworking, just loved to waste his time playing games and watching football matches, and never really interested in the corporate world or doing anything that is prestigious. But she had to be in a relationship with him for the sake of her family name. And then she happened to begin to see another guy in her organization, a guy that was younger than her. Now the expectation was that she marries from a family that had name, right? But now she begins to fall in love with this other guy in her organization that's a confident guy, hardworking, and knew what he was doing, knows what he wants in a woman and all of those things. So he was giving everything that the Anoze boy was not given. And so she genuinely fell in love with this other guy. But she was not in love with Anoze, she was just with him for the family name and to keep up to her dad's expectation. And so throughout the movie, there's a lot of highs and lows. She wanting this guy she's in love with, and at the same time trying to keep up with her father's reputation. And a lot of things went south in the movie. But at the end of the day, she had to decide, And I think feel like the decision was later impacted by the fact that this boy that they thought didn't have a name was actually building something for himself on the ground, and nobody knew it until he became this very big, name, and she eventually had to choose him. But the moral of the story is that she had to break out from her family's expectations. She had to break out from her father's expectations. The Anozes wanted their son to marry the DK daughter because, of course, they had the same social status and class. It was expected that they hold on that, social status and class, money, and all of those things, wealth, name, and all of those things. But at the end of the day, she had to break out from that. And although at first, when she started taking steps to break out of that, her dad was disappointed in her. The Anozes were disappointed in her. It was like she was bringing shame to the family name. But later, when she had to make her choice, I think the dad was now influenced by the fact that this guy that he actually thought had no name or was a pauper was actually someone that was building something big for himself. But I think the theme or the moral of the story is that we do not necessarily have to succumb to unhealthy family expectations at the end of the day and ditch or throw away what feels right and true to us, right? And so that's what I'm trying to paint in this story. So let's get into what we have today. First of all, let's talk about what family expectations really are. Every family has unspoken rules, whether it is about career, relationships, religion, or even personality traits. Some family expect, of course, conformist and behavioral distinct conformists, which our parents normally are. Some family expect you to be a doctor or a lawyer. In my case, my daddy expected me to study science. He didn't want me to be a lawyer. I eventually studied science because I had to break out from that expectation, which it was really rough, but I finally had to do it. So some families expect you to either become a doctor or a lawyer because it has a certain social class in society. Others expect you to get married at a certain age or behave in a certain way. They want you to look in a certain way, dress in a certain way, behave in a certain way. And these are not totally bad, right? Because it's very important that you're morally um, brought up to be planted in society. Okay, but it can become unhealthy. It can become unhealthy. These expectations can come from culture, traditions, religions, and even your parents' own unfulfilled dreams. I feel like a lot of reason why, a lot of the times, the basic reason why a lot of parents want their children to study medicine or law in school to become doctors or lawyers is because they wished that they had the opportunity, or they just felt some certain way that if they had the opportunity to do that, they would have chosen that so that they can be in certain society class or something. And then some other people that are doctors or lawyers want their children to take up the same line of what they study. So it's just your parents' own unfulfilled dreams and their dreams. But here's the challenge: what happens when their expectations don't align with who you really are? Ask yourself this question. So let's break it down. Explicit versus implicit expectations. Some expectations are spoken out loud, like you must study medicine. Others are subtle, like how your family reacts when you express a different dream. Like it was, in my case, I don't think there was anything that was subtle. What was even subtle, there was nothing that was subtle, or maybe at the beginning something was subtle. My daddy expected because I was good in sciences in my junior secondary class that I was going to go for sciences in senior secondary, and then that was a subtle expectation. But when I did not follow that necessary, I went to the art class. It became a very explicit expectation that no, you must have to. And I went back to the sciences. I did sciences, SS1, second term, third term. and I stubbornly went back to art class in SS2. In SS2, I was supposed to go back to science class, but I stubbornly refused, even after he paid a lot of money to um, lesson teacher to take me through preparation for WIEC and in the science courses, and I was supposed to go back to school and continue that, but I just refused. So all of these things can be explicit or implicit, right? And then when they exist, many parents believe that these expectations are a way of securing a good future for their children. They actually think their intentions to be good, and I do not blame them for that because they actually want their children to have a good future. Sometimes it's about maintaining family honor, right? So these are the reasons why they exist, because they want to secure a good future, or they want to maintain the family honor. And the pressure and emotional toll that comes with it is anxiety, is guilt, is a loss of self-identity that can come from constantly trying to please your family. And this is not a good place to be. So there is always this internal conflict of who am I versus who they want me to be. And this is one of the hardest parts of breaking free from family expectation. It is in dealing with this internal conflict. You may begin to ask yourself, am I disappointing my parents? What if they stop supporting me? Am I being selfish for choosing my own path? I had to go through all of this when I chose to go through and study and be in the art class in senior secondary. Sometimes I felt like, of course, my parents always expressed that they were disappointed in me, and then I was scared that they would stop supporting me, and I'll have to run away from the house and go to the road and be looking. You know how we watch Nollywood movies, and I'll be looking for a rich man that will pick me up and change my life or change my story. So those were the imaginations I had in my head. And then sometimes I had to think whether I was being selfish for choosing my own path. Now, these questions are normal. Many of us were raised to believe that family approval equals success and happiness. But living for others can lead to a deep resentment and unhappiness. I remember during those times I was going back and forth, I was in science class and I had no peace because this was not what I wanted for myself. This was not where I saw myself going in my nearest future. And I tried, I tried to maybe kill, quieting my mind or my imagination or my thoughts. I tried to steer myself towards in SS1, second or third term while I was in sciences. I tried to quieten my mind to just follow through because I was not failing. I took third position in second term in A class, and then I came fourth in A class in the third term. So I was not bad at physics, chemistry. No, I was actually pretty good. But I remember I spoke with one of my science teachers, my physics teachers at that time, and I was telling her how I didn't feel peace with this part, and then I don't know, I don't want to disappoint my parents, but then I know that. And then she told me something that it's better to choose the discomfort of now to study what I want than later in life to begin to resent my parents for where I will be in the future. And I may have the opportunity to go back, but it would have taken a lot of years from me. So instead of me focusing on what is important, I'll have to go and retrace my step and start studying again what I wanted to do from the very beginning, to build a deep-seated resentment in me that will not be good for my relationship with parents, and I had to choose. And so it will lead to a deep-seated resentment and unhappiness because you're living for other people. So what's the way forward, right? What's the way forward as an identity coach? Um, I have personal insights on how you can do this. The way forward, and I've also gone through this, right? The way forward is to actually find what is true to you. Now, I had this knowing in me that I was not supposed to do science. I was supposed to do law. Why I didn't know, I couldn't figure out why as at then. But that was what felt true to me. And I couldn't have peace until I went there. Sometimes you have to rebel against family's expectations, like in this context, right? It may come with repercussions, but I think everybody will finally be all right. But to be on a safe side, you have to speak to people of authority who your parents listen to, right? Who your mother or your father listen to. You can speak to maybe a pastor in the church, a senior pastor in the church, and tell them what's happening. In my case, I think I didn't speak to a senior pastor in my church. I don't know. Somehow it got to the ears of a senior pastor that my parents respect, because I was a distressed young child and the story was flying up and down in school. And then he called my dad and spoke. Why would you be choosing for a child what she wants to study? You don't do that. You let them study what they want to study. And what is wrong with studying law? So he just had to let me. So go for what you want. Sometimes it will come with repercussions when there's no other choice or option. Repercussions that somehow you will navigate through it. Okay, you will navigate through it, and everybody will be all right. Or you could speak to an authority figure that your parents will listen to. I think that is easier for you to navigate that. So now let's get into the practical steps. How do you actually break free while remaining in a healthy relationship with your family, while maintaining and remaining in a healthy relationship with your family? And it's not set in stone, but here are just some practical steps. Define your own path. Reflect, engage in self-reflection and define your own path. Ask yourself, what do I truly want? Journal this your thoughts, desires, and fears. Now, open communication. Have an honest conversation with your family. Explain your dreams with clarity. Use I statements. I feel happiest when I do XYZ. Instead of you are forcing me to do XYZ. No, tell them what you feel happy doing. Engage in that honest conversation. In my case, I engaged in that conversation, but it went south because my parents are kind of very intense people, and it didn't work. And so that was why I needed to take the other option of just going to do what I wanted to do, right? Now, the third thing to do is you have the right to say no. Distance yourself from negative energy while still showing respect. This can be hard, especially in an African family. You have no right to say no to your parents. It's what we've always grown up with and what we've always known. But you can do that respectfully, right? Thank God everybody's becoming more enlightened and knowledgeable in all these kind of things. But it can be pretty difficult. But yes, learn how to set boundaries and show respect while distancing yourself from negative energy. Now, find supportive communities. Surround yourself with mentors, friends, or coaches who encourage you. Seek professional guidance if needed so that you can learn how to navigate each phase of this. The fifth thing to do is give yourself permission to live authentically. Your life is yours to live. At the end of the day, you're going to be with yourself. You're going to live with yourself. Nobody's going to be you for you. Nobody's going to do what you want to do for you. Nobody's coming to save you. That's just the truth. So your life is yours to live. And the best way to honor your family is by being the best version of yourself. Not the best version of who they want you to be, but the best version of yourself that is true. And at the end of the day, they'll be honored by it. So you have to choose your battles wisely. Are you going to battle it now, and in the future everybody will be fine? Because right now my family, everybody's fine. They're proud of me. I'm a lawyer right now, and everywhere my daddy goes to, he's always proud to see my daughter study. So it's not a thing of shame. Like my mom is always proud to tell people, oh, my daughter, she's done, she's a lawyer now. Anyway, they see me, lawyer. So all the things that happened in the past, they are gone. Just imagine if I had succumbed to doing science. I'm going to be living in the shadow of myself because I'm going to hate them so much, right? I finally may have not even have passed. Maybe if I did engineering or medicine, I may not have passed a few of my exams because it was not something I wanted. So it will even make my life delayed and I'll hate them more for it. And they will also be frustrated on the long run because it's not something I want for myself. And so I'm not going to give it the exact energy or passion that I gave studying law, right? Even against all odds when things were not going well because I chose to study law. I tried to remain committed to the vision of studying law because I chose it for myself. And so that's what you're going to lack when you go for what other people want. You will not be able to motivate yourself to go for it because in the first place it's not true to you and it's not what you actually wanted for yourself. So breaking free from family expectations is tough, but remember, you are not alone. Many have walked this path and found freedom. I have walked this path and I found freedom, and so can you. Your family may not understand at first, but over time, they may come to respect your choices when they see you thriving. Same happened to me, so yes. And again, this is the last day of this is the last episode in this International Women's Month, and I want to appreciate everyone. If you're tuned into this podcast and you're struggling to overcome or break away from societal or family expectations, this is dedicated specifically to you, woman. And here's my challenge for you: take one step this week that aligns with your truth, whether it's a small act of self expression or it's what's your dream. Do something that brings you closer to the you that you know, right? And I would love for you guys to drop your comments, questions, response, the comment section here on Spotify or on YouTube, or even on the Young and Sane podcast Instagram handle or my personal handle, Tamarflourish. I'd love to read and hear from each of you. Thank you for joining me today. If this podcast episode resonated with you, please share it with a friend whom I need it. Share it to another woman, share it to another man. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and follow us on social media at the Young and Sane podcast on Instagram. Until next time, I want you to stay true to yourself and remember to stay safe. I love you. Bye.